There you go. Hi, everyone. I'm Alan Ngo, founder of Digital Solopreneur. It's funny how the word entrepreneur turned into a status symbol no, in the past few years. It symbolizes wealth, intelligence, class when the internet exploded, no? More so after the pandemic. When the fact is, it's a gritty job, no? Most of them sacrifice stability for ambition, work long, thankless hours, and grit their way through uncertainty. And this is a peek behind the curtains to meet people who are in the grind long before it was cool. The real ones who live that life. And one of them is here, Miss Darlene Ty-Nilo. Dar founded Viviamo and created the Belle Jour Power Planner 17 years ago. She saw the need for Filipinos to be empowered to design lives that they love and that are full of joy. To help people desire their best life and find courage, clarity, self-love, and abundance. To date, Viviamo has published over 1 million copies of their planners and journals. She aims to help the disempowered to become dream powered and help everyone feel that in spite of uncertainty, a life full of love and joy is always possible. So with that said, welcome Dar. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for this kind introduction, and I love to be able to share. I love what you said about the grittiness of being an entrepreneur. Kasi mahirap talaga.
Yeah. I've
Mm.
known Dar for quite a while, no. So parang I feel that she was the one nga na I wanted to be the first guest for this I guess for this series that we're starting, no. And siguro I'd like also you Dar to introduce you to everyone in the room, no. So guys, people so part a section of our audience comes from our membership. It's called Inbox Society because I want them to meet A players in the entrepreneurship world and outside of the internet marketing space because I want to expand our thinking as well. So guys, those who are in the Inbox Society, favor lang, can you rename and add IS in front of your name so we can identify you and later we'll give you the floor no, to ask questions to Dar. And also, other than our members, we actually had people apply to get a chance to speak with you, Dar. So other than those with IS and their names, these are people who submitted. We basically asked them, why should we choose you? And they gave wonderful responses because speaking with A players, serious entrepreneurs, I want serious people as well to learn. And these are the people, we filter their answers and sila yung nanalo. So all the people here are very serious and eager to learn. And walang napadaan lang dito. Everyone here is intentional. So with with that said, I'll be the one to be asking questions first, then I'll give the floor to our live audience here on Zoom. No, so I know your time is valuable, Dar. So I'll go straight to the point sa question ko, no? Di na paligoy-ligoy. So the first question is, what's your favorite color?
Favorite color? Medyo madami, but generally right now it's green. It doesn't explain my hair, but I used to have green hair. Now it's red and purple. It's not just as visible right now because it's a bit wet, but it's really more green. But I don't know, parang bagay, parang na-feel ko lang na, palitan. Pink, then purple, then red.
Right. So sakto. Ito yung suot ko. So baka the universe conspired, di ba? Para
Yes.
for me to
Mm.
represent. All right. Great. So now that we have the tough question out of the way now, so it's gonna get easier from here. But basically, I know from working with you, that you've worked with multinationals, PNG, J&J, Summit Media. To be honest, dream companies for many. No, and now you're here, the Queen Bella of Belle de Jour, no, of your planner and journal empire. What happened? Can you tell us a little bit of what happened between then and now?
Well, the short story is that I failed. So I worked with PNG when I was like in college. When I was at college, I was like a high flyer. I graduated with honors, and then yesterday I was like meeting with someone in the advertising agency. Sabi niya, wow, you won the PANA competition in college. It's a career maker. So, as in ganon. So, I led UP Diliman in the first ever win in a marketing competition. So, I beat out the Ateneo, LaSalle. If you're familiar, if you're from UP, wala kaming budget, wala kaming allocation, wala kaming pera. So we really had to like figure a lot of things on our own. So I started with that. I graduated with a number of recognition. I got my pick of jobs. But during my year, my first year out of college, that was my, kumare, the term is my lagapak, my fall from grace. Like it was like it's still, I think, to this day, the worst time in my life. That's why even with the pandemic, I think that was really still really bad for me. Bakit ano nangyari? I accepted a job offer. So I was working in a multinational 14 hours. Kasi usually pag MNC, di ba, ganun siya katagal. Nag-graduate ako 2005. So medyo ganun yung life during that time. Wala, I mean, people will talk about work-life balance, but it doesn't really exist. And then during weekends, I would do a 12-hour study for the board exams. So I made two decisions, critical life decisions right after college that were not true choices to me. Meaning, bakit ko tinanggap yung J&J job? Kahit parang feeling ko during the interview, I did not fit in. Sayang, ikaw lang yung only person na magto-turn down ng offer na to ever since the program started because this is like the best offer ever. Second, graduate ka na ng business ad and accountancy eh. Tapos hindi ka pa magte-take ng boards. Sayang, CPA ka pa magiging CPA ka pa. Even though, as a fact, you don't get the three letters unless you do the continuing education every year. And unless you practice for 3 years, technical terms, 3 years, and I had no interest in practicing. In fact, during that time, I was openly declaring, even if someone pays me 1 million pesos, and it's a lot more money then in 2005, I won't do accounting work for them. So despite those very clear stance on what I want or what I do not want in my life, I allowed myself to go into sayang yung opportunity eh. So sige, tanggap ko. So what happened? 6 months, I got conditional passing with the board exams. That means I passed. My overall average was around 82 or 84. But meron ako isang subject that didn't pass, which is law, below 65. So I just had to take one subject and then everything's okay, but I chose not to take it anymore. The second was I was asked to resign because I didn't perform in the level that they wanted. Like parang they said to me na you should parang you performed above average, excellent, pero since you're the management trainee, we expect you to be above and above average. So bottom line, they won't regularize me. So imagine, 'di ba, being on top of the world right after college. I had my pick of jobs. I graduated in a quota course wherein only 77 of us graduated. And the UP brand is that requires 100% passing in the board exams. And I'm one of them that thankfully hindi ako mag-isa nag-fail, but I'm one of the people who parang again besmirched the 100%, right?
Right.
So that was my story. Like it was crazy. I crashed. And then what happened thereafter was that I didn't believe in bad days. I had the grit, I had the resilience siguro na no, this cannot be my life. So I started writing down my goals. What if I'm gonna start again right now from scratch as if nothing happened, what would I want? What do I want? And I started writing it down. And then I also looked at my past, like parang what worked for me in the past, in college, in high school, when I was like an achiever. And then now in the real world, nag-fail ako big time. I realized that a planner and a journal helped me. in that parang it felt like I had more clarity in terms of what I wanted. And then when I started working, I did use a notebook, but it was primarily all in Outlook. So, ayun, yun yung ano na ko. Tapos naisip ko din, syempre, I blamed myself, di ba? Whenever we make major mistakes in our life, sino pa bang sisisihin natin, di ba? So, sinisi ko lang sa sarili ko na parang, kasi hindi ko inayos yung time management ko ng maayos eh. So, nag-aral ako ng time management principles. And so I decided, okay, sige, while looking for a job, I'll make a planner for myself so that when I find the perfect job for myself, pwede akong magagamit ko yung planner to be successful in that job and I'll be able to manage my time in the best possible way. So it ended up like that. But I had another friend. So despite my eyes set on corporate, I had a friend who worked in Summit Media. Tapos sabi niya, Dar, this is like the most fun company. And I'm sure you're gonna be super happy here. Coming from a multinational, wherein parang everything's a bit more structured and so on. Syempre may good and bad, di ba? There was times the last few days before I was asked to resign, like I was walking literally in our hallways
Right.
na feeling ko black and white. Like black
Wow.
and white. So kung ano yung nakikita natin sa movies, 'di ba pag ano, hindi ko alam kung depressed pa or what, basta parang black and white. I really went to the office and everything was black and white. How my body or my mind reacted was that I brought my childhood artworks that I still had and decorated my cubicle with it. So ganun siya kalala. And I was
Mhm.
like, I wasn't so in touch with my feelings and emotions. That's why I couldn't do anything about it. I was just literally a walking zombie. So when I was offered, like, okay, Summit Media, I was actually offered three different positions.
Mhm.
Um, I said, sige, let's do this. It's something creative. Maybe I just need a bit more creativity. But we have to accept, diba? You guys, when you go to business, there are three things that you need to look out for or the things that you need to take care of. Number one is your personal growth because nobody will take care of that for you. If you're in a when we were in PNG, when I was in J&J, we had a personal development plan that the HR would work with us with. So when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have that. You have to figure out your personal development plan by yourself. Number two is a need that we all have but may not always acknowledge. It's affiliation. Affiliation gives us a bit more credibility. So like, why did Alan say that it's a dream company? Diba? There's an attachment of credibility when you say that, you came from those company, regardless of whether I succeeded or not, right? Because I at least passed the, I don't know, recruitment process. The third is the money. Because reality is, kailangan pa rin natin ng pera. So sa akin, when I was like going to Summit Media, yung money, famous yung Summit Media for super baba na sweldo. So, syempre, my ego also could not take na parang, ito yung sweldo ko dati, tapos papasok ko sa Summit Media, like half yung sweldo. 'Di ba? So, parang what I decided was that parang, okay, I'll start my business because when I was doing the multinational work, I didn't have time for anything else aside from the fact I was taking the boards. But I felt like I wouldn't have any time. So at least this time, like I said, I'll start the BDJ because my friends were encouraging me. So maybe it's the best time. So when I did Summit Media, it was actually side by side with starting my business because that's the only way I could justify to my ego why I'll take a lower paying
Mhm.
job. So, ayun. So, yun yung nangyari. That was like a big jump for me.
Right.
But of course, at that time, I felt also, syempre, minsan tayo, di ba, pag napunta tayo sa mga mistakes natin, may
Mhm.
feeling pa din tayo na kulang tayo sa choices or ito lang, limited yung choices natin. So,
Right.
those were my choices at that time.
Right. Right.
So,
And I remember, so I guess as for people listening din, no? It wasn't really like a grand plan right off the
It
bat,
wasn't a
no?
grand plan.
It was a mistake, failure that kind of ended up in some ways parang accidental nga, no? That you found this path. Um, and to your point, no, yung I came from accountancy din, malaking bagay talaga yung passing, no? That's usually pinagyayabang ng schools to get more students in. So I could just understand, no, yung pressure kasi even with
Mm-mm.
UPs talaga isa sa mga talagang titingala eh. So I could imagine the pressure that you guys take. October ka ba nag-take nun, Dar? Or is it
October ako nag-take.
October, di ba?
October ako
Right.
nag-take. Yeah.
Right. Kami usually nag-May kami. So hindi namin nakakasabay yung UP. So pwede kami mag-top. So nung panahon namin, trisem kasi kami. So yeah, iwasan natin yung UP. But that's kind of the gold standard talaga. So I can imagine the pressure and you working as management trainee. So for guys that are not familiar with that, usually when you go to corporate, diba, may rank and file years, then you go to management. So for management trainee, parang mas, ito yung mga like top students who will skip that and go straight to management. And that is like a coveted position as well. So I could really feel yung sinabi mo, parang black and white when you're going out
Mhm.
because that's really like high pressure, high expectations na job eh. And I remember when you were telling me no, yung sa Summit Media, when you started yung BDJ, you were distributing it sa Coffee Bean, tama ba?
Yes, I was distributing it in Coffee Bean. Like the old Summit Media office was still in the parang basement of Robinson's Galleria. So, umakit lang ako after work. Tapos, i-distribute ko lang doon. Tapos, it was very funny pa kasi yun nga, di ba? Minsan humahaba yung pila. Kasi I didn't expect that the planner or the business would be successful. In fact, guys, when I started the business and I was talking to my mentor, then sabi ko, but I don't know if the numbers will allow for me to be profitable. To be honest, in the start, diba, when I joined Summit Media, I started the business. My idea was I'm gonna earn a lot of money so that it will compensate. But when I was doing the numbers, hindi siya nag-work to the
Mm.
point that I wasn't really sure if I'm gonna earn money. So it became about just bringing out something that you've created, being able to talk to Papa. Being able to release into the market or into the public something that you've created in your own
Right.
hands. So that was what it was all about. And my mentor told me na sulat mo na lang parang percentage of profits goes to charity. So if anyone asks you if you're earning money, sabi mo, yeah, it went to charity. Parang ganon. Parang
Take note, life
palusot.
hacks, life hacks. Right.
Papa. Oo.
So
So,
yeah.
I didn't expect it to be successful.
Right.
But in 3 weeks after we launched, we were sold out.
Hey,
So,
can you remind there, Dar? Kasi I just to make sure, when you started this, it was out of your own money, ikaw nag-fund.
out of my own money. So, guys, I started the business with 4,000 pesos. During our peak, this is pre-pandemic, our sales revenue reached around 50 million pesos.
Wow.
So that's how big the business grew. Right now, of course, the pandemic hit us and we can talk about that because like that's the other major part of
Right. Right.
the parang what happened to all of us, right? But yeah, it was that
Yeah.
big
Right.
before.
And
Before I emphasize the before. But we'll get there. But
you'll get
yeah,
there.
we'll get there.
Yung
So go ahead,
how
sorry.
how did you get that first traction? Kasi di ba you were sold out right away? Kasi earlier you mentioned your friends were encouraging you to do this. So like what did they see? That's why they encourage you to do it. And secondly, paano nakuha ka nung yung first fans mo when you were starting out?
Okay. I'll try to answer 3 points. First, when I designed the product, I actually did a market research survey. So this is when I did the survey. I know this is part of your program, Alan, diba, talking to parang some of your customers or getting to
Right.
know what they're talking about. So that's very important when you're releasing whatever product service you have in the market. So with me, since I had a background in PNG, I was part of the market research team before. It was sort of ingrained or brainwashed in me that I had to do something like that. So when I did that, yung first thing na nangyari siguro sa akin was that I realized women parang cared more about planners versus guys. And if I was gonna design something, a product that I pour my heart and soul on, I'd rather give it, since hindi ko nga sure kung kita ko ng pera, I'd rather give it to people who would value it.
Right.
So this is what I would call parang high category involvement. Kasi in that category, sino ba mas may pakialam in getting their planners or choosing their planners? Is it guys or girls? In that time, it was really more women, maybe even up to now to a certain extent. So then I realized, okay, bakit ko papapansin yung mga lalaki kung wala rin naman silang pakialam sa akin, di ba? Or sa product. So
Right.
that's when I focused on women. The second thing is really understanding your numbers. So I had 4,000 pesos. How did I produce? Minimum of 1,500 was the first year circulation. So I said I needed to raise money. I didn't have money. I didn't parang my family parang we had food on the table but we didn't have cash. And guys, remember I was just reeling from failure. Nobody knew of this venture. Me lang. Because I
Right.
didn't know was I gonna succeed. I don't, parang hindi, parang ayoko mapahiya ulit. Gets? So I had 4,000 pesos and what I decided or was parang the idea that came to mind was because I was working in Summit Media, so this is the value of observing. I know the business model of magazines is advertising and circulation. So I put advertising in the planner through the coupons that we see. So even the first BDJ planner had coupons in it. So I sold them the idea that, hey, you want to reach, this is a targeted group of girls who will resonate with this concept. Remember, wala pang product, wala pang anything. Yun lang, that's just simple my pitch. This is the first ever planner for women, and this is what we are talking about, blah, blah, blah. It's for women empowerment. Do you want your brand to be part of it? That was for every brand, for every coupon, I was charging 5,000 pesos. So I was able to raise funds. But the money that I raised was just enough for 1,000 pieces. Now, when I was doing the numbers, again, focus on the numbers, hindi ako kikita ng pera. Kasi yung unit cost ko, sobrang taas versus the target SRP that I want. So what I did was that this is when the time I asked my friends na, hey, the difference between 1,000 to 1,500, yung per unit cost niya, sobrang laki ng baba. So I need this additional money to pay for the last 500. Habol ko lang naman is lower unit
Right.
cost eh. So they said, okay, yung arrangement, after I sell the first 1,000, I'll help them in any way possible to sell the last 500. And then 100% of the profit for the 500 goes to them. So my
Right.
barkada thankfully agreed. I think there were three, four of them na who spotted for that last 500.
Right. Right.
So the numbers, really knowing your numbers, your costs, and figuring out how or where to get the money help. So that's the second. The third is parang how did we sell it? Parang since meron na kaming brands, the third was easier because I was in Summit Media. So I had a bit of access to some people in the PR na pwedeng magpa-sample, ganyan. But to
Right.
be honest, hindi siya naging, hindi ako na-support until na-sold out na yung product. But someone, because of my, I was supported in terms of connection, I was able to sell in National Bookstore year 1 pa lang. Sander Ramos, we presented in terms of crossings, may coupons sila. If you're familiar with the crossings brand. So nakapag-place kami. And because of the placement of the planner in the bookstore, in National Bookstore during that time, parang journalists saw us, saw the brand, purchased, and wrote about us in Philippine Star. So that was what happened. So they wrote about us as parang ayun, ubos kami 3 weeks. And it was profitable because the numbers made sense. Kaya ako hina-highlight yung market research because the concept needs to make sense.
Right.
And then number
Right.
3 is, there's a bit of luck to it, I guess, but right placement, diba? Minsan if you have a
Right.
business, place works.
Right.
So that's a third thing.
Wow. Yeah. Great. Ang ganda. I love just to like dig into your story, no? Like when you said the 50 million part, napansin ko syempre yung comment medyo nag-wow, no?
Grabe, diba mo?
But also that's something that really resonated with me. Even yesterday, I shared something no sa group namin na yung ina-idol mong entrepreneur with a giant email list. Nagsimula din yan sa isa, no? Like don't be jealous of where they are, but obsess on how they started. And I think that resonates well with you as well. Kasi if you see the top line, di ba, parang grabe siguro advantage ni Dar. Di ba? Baka sobrang kamag-anak niya sila Henry C. and stuff. But if you look at it, di ba? If you look at it, discarte talaga di ba? Discarte ni Dar na. Alam niya pag, if I hit this quantity, bababa yung unit cost ko. So she made a way to hit that para the numbers would make sense. And kaya nga yun yung title ng talk natin, yung the gritty side, di ba? The gritty rise to glamour. Because there's a lot of things that you don't know from outside looking in. You might assume things, right? But ito yung behind the scenes. And this was, as you noticed, hindi pa prevalent sobra yung social media at this time.
Yes,
It
wala pa.
it was hardcore. Kaya nga, Dar is one of the real ones talaga na parang hindi, like before it was easy, she was already in the grind. And you can see, di ba? Yes, siguro may advantage siya with Summit Media. Yes, part of it is luck. But if she didn't do all the hard work, di ba? It wouldn't really matter. She put herself in the best position to take advantage of that privilege, kumbaga. So, thank you for sharing that, Dar. And siguro, last question from my end before I turn it over to our audience is, siguro, what's the most surprising thing for you about transitioning from employee to entrepreneur? Maybe something na walang nagsabi sa'yo, tapos ganito pala.
I think that it's harder work versus being an employee. Kasi parang I do agree that being an entrepreneur, especially now, is a bit more glamorized. Like even before, like when I started, so that was what 2006, 2007. Hindi siya glamorized at that time, but hindi siya in a way nakakahiya. Gets? Parang it didn't mean so much that you didn't succeed, right? So parang it was just something na okay, kasi a lot of people really want to be an entrepreneur even before. And I handled Entrepreneur Magazine. If I remember the statistics properly, almost 70% of Filipinos wants to start a business. This is in 2005.
Right.
So, kumbaga, starting a business was a bit more preferred versus joining a company, or at least being able to do it simultaneously. But I think yun yung the myth during that time is that when you're an entrepreneur, you control your time. Ngayon siguro meron ng mas grounded and alam nyo na, di ba, na bago kayong sumabak dito, yes, you control your own time, but it's also a bit more challenging to manage the rest of your life with less structure.
Right. Great. So guys, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand dito sa Zoom. Not necessarily sa camera. So I can track you guys. So yeah. So I have Chelsea here. And ask you to unmute. Yeah. Hi,
Ayan.
Chels.
Hello. Hi po. Hi, Miss Dar. I'm Fan.
Hello.
Yeah.
Ayun.
Dar, to share na, ano, like, si Chels yung unang excite when I told the group na ikaw yung, you'll be our guest. So Chels, this is your chance.
Yeah. Ayun. Thank you po for sharing yung story of how you started si VDJ and Cap. So, siguro, follow-up question to maybe I think dun sa na-share niyo na po kanina about yun nga na you did not really intend naman for BDJ or Viviamo to actually grow this big na. But siguro ang question ko po is, when did you really start to feel na things are getting serious na for this ano parang side gig or parang small
Hustle.
business opo na was it when you were able to tap na yung mga brands with I mean through Summit Media, or was it when nalagay na yung a few stocks sa National Bookstore ganyan, or was there a particular event?
Point. Yeah.
Opo, yeah.
There is. That's actually a very good question. When did I really take the entrepreneurial leap? Kasi during the first few years of BDJ, I was still working full time, right? So, first year, ayun, thankfully, I earned money in my first year. Before the first year to second year, I wasn't 100% sure pa. Kasi parang masaya talaga ako sa job ko and Summit eh. Like, for me, it is like one of the best jobs for me. And if I didn't have to resign because of Viviamo or BTJ, I actually would have stayed. So there was a point that I realized I really needed to choose. And the choice was because when I was in Summit Media and I was still doing BDJ, so I was successful. Merong lumalapit na opportunity trying to offer me, pulling me back in the multinational world. Na parang, oh, Dar, interview ka namin, mukhang bagay ka dito, blah, blah, blah. And I realized, so I accepted the interviews. So I was still, there's still a chip on my shoulder na parang, shit, hindi ako nag-succeed dito. So if i-offer ako, baka kunin ko just to prove to myself that I could have succeeded in that world, right? Kasi 'di ba, I mean, yun nga, coming from honesty, there's really ego in place in all of us. We just need to know where it is. Otherwise, you let it control you. So sa akin, okay, I accept it. Ay, nag-interview ako. And during the interview, 'di ba may mga questions, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Yung mga ganong classic questions. So I obviously I gave them the answer that they wanted to hear, right? But I realized in my head that the only reason that I'm entertaining the corporate invitations to go back to the corporate world is because I felt I was not good enough yet to have a business. Meaning, I wasn't halos fresh grad lang. I wasn't successful in the corporate world. Tapos, may kapal ako ng mukha to start a business. Even with that success, ha, parang I felt unworthy. But when I was asked that question, the 5 years from now, I realized, shucks, babalik din pala ako in being an entrepreneur if I'm gonna ask myself honestly. So, biglang nawalan yung point na bakit ako parang nandito na ako being an entrepreneur, babalik ako sa being corporate, tapos babalik din ako dito. So, parang it made me realize the feelings of unworthiness in me na hindi ako, kaya parang I needed that validation. 'Di ba sabi ko kanina three things, 'di ba? Growth, validation or association, and then money. So, I realized, kailangan ko pala ng validation. So that was some ego need that I needed. So sabi ko, okay, sige. Since alam ko na that's what I need, then I look for it somewhere else, not necessarily corporate. And then, so that was like one incident that I realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur. The second incident that parang reached to the point that I resigned from Summit Media is because when on my first year, we launched the planners. Sobrang naging successful siya. 3 weeks, we were sold out. Our brand partners during that time asked me already to make planners for them. So this was the um, parang second business. The B2C and consumer, and then the B2B was born. parang sakto, first ano pa lang, first to second year, ganun. So, if you look at it, sobra kong swerte, 'di ba? Nilalapitan ako ng kliyente. So, yun, nilalapitan kami. I was like, okay, I was doing it by myself, having a full-time job. And nauwi ulit ako sa kind of work wherein at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, I would run to the printer, like drive myself there, make sure that they're doing their work, their job, whatever, kasi I needed it. I go to the office, 10 to 7 yung work namin sa Summit. So I'll be there at 10, clock out at 7. Then I do either meet people or whatever, do pitches or something else, and then go back home. So the kind of life that I had during that time, sinasabi ko din, sobrang sipag ko. Like, I'm masipag talaga akong person na parang it's not my life right now, this did not fall into my lap without any intentional or deliberate stuff. Pinaghirapan ko siya. And so, ganon. Then I realized I was noticing a pattern with myself. Na parang, shocks, napupunta ako ulit with what happened to me when I was in first year after college. Parang nagtatrabaho ako, nag-aaral ako, ang dami kong ginagawa, and I was so burned out. Diba, I told you about the world being black and white. During that time, I was also um, having my friends were taking me out because they could see how stressed I am. So, they would take me out, dinner tayo. Pipilitin nila ako, kikidnapin nila ako, dinner kami. You know, I'd fall asleep. Alam mo yung kulang na lang yung face mo mahulog sa pagkain. That was happening to me. So, in Summit, and I was balancing it in DJ, once I was starting to see these indicators, makes me question again, what do I want in my life? What kind of life do I want to live? Ganito ba ka stress? Ganito ba ka hustle? Diba? And I realized, ayoko ng ganon. So that's why I decided na para, okay, I guess it's time to separate from Summit Media. I gave Summit Media a 3-month notice for my resignation. Because I told you, I really love the brand. I really love the environment. Ayoko silang maiwan sa ere. And I had one of my best strategy plans at that time that I pitched. So yun, I reached a point na parang I realized that even if I was successful in Summit Media, meaning I was getting recognized, I was getting promoted, people were like patting me in the back. I launched a new magazine on my own and it was 70-80% profitable. It was a Sudoku magazine. Ako, halos lang one-man team lang ako nung time na yun. So, ayan, my name is there in the earlier years. I was doing, sabi ni Mark kasi, buyer siya ng Entrep magazine. And I would organize all the events. So I did that while doing the business. I was successful in both, but it was a question, is this the kind of life do I want? So back to the question, I realized, hindi. I wanted something a bit more, parang there's still a lot of potential in doing many things, but I guess I wanted a bit more, something that I can control lang a bit more, maybe, or parang I wanted more rest, just balancing it. More, I wanted a personal life, yes. So, ayun. So, I decided to resign and then really just take the leap. That was in 2010 or 2008 to 10, mga 8, 9, ganyan. 5, 6, 7. I think mga 9. 2010 planner. Sorry, iba yung years namin pag iniisip yung planner. The 2010 BDJ planner was the planner that we released when I was out of Summit Media na. So, yun. I hope
Did
that
that answer?
answered your question.
Yeah.
Yes po, Miss Dar. Thank you po for sharing. Kasi yun nga medyo, syempre, parang right now as freelancers or freelance business owners, may mga side projects rin na gusto kaming gawin, but like sometimes it makes me question na worth doing ba siya or something. Alam mo yun? But yeah, I think yung journey was very relatable and tignan natin, I hope it could inspire us rin to do our own side projects, and maybe in the future it will be as big as VDJ or something.
Yung practical advice ko always, kasi parang even right now, and because we just came from the pandemic, what I would always say also to my team, even if they're working with me full time, is always look for a secondary option. I think right now, the time in 2005, 6, 7 versus now 2022 is very different. So if you can get multiple sources of income, ako, you go for it. Because there are a lot of things outside our control now, and even the world is trying to figure out what the hell happened to us in terms of economics, in terms of parang like next year they're saying it, there's going to be a global recession. So you have like all these things that's outside our control. So ako, very practical. In terms of the work you have, the sidelines, manage your energy because that's your primary resource, diba? And then finding the balance to get multiple income given the very limited source of
Yes.
energy that you have.
Thank you,
I,
Miss
Yeah.
Laura.
Great. Great. Thank you, Chels, for the question. May pipeline na tayo of question. We have Aiza, Jagad, and si Richelle. All right. So thanks, Chels. Aiza, I'll ask you to unmute. Uh, there you go.
Ayan. Hello, Coach. So, hi, Miss Dar. So, dati nakikita ko lang yung PDJ sa NBS. So, super surreal. Makamit yung founder. Kasi, journal girl ako eh. So, yun. So, anyway, yung question ko po, kasi, background ko kasi is more on SaaS. So, di ba there are lots of productivity apps, madami na ding
Correct.
journaling apps. So, I'm just wondering if this has like affected
affected
the
the
journal
business.
business. Yes, yes.
I think yes and no, to be honest. Kasi yes, because syempre there are people who used or converted from paper to digital. But at the same time, na sinasabi kong no. Kasi right now, because sa sobrang fast-paced din ng lives natin right now, people need the planner to purposely disconnect. So, people need the paper to purposely disconnect. Because parang, talaga eh, I think you'll really go into like a lot of mental health concerns if you don't know how to pause. And remember, why do some people don't want to write? There are some people, my hands cannot catch up with how fast my thoughts are passing through. So, minsan mas gusto kong mag-type kasi mas nakakasunod yung type ko. So, it's about this obsession also with the speed, right? Which is counter the effect in a way of journaling in terms of using your hands. And based on science, whatever you write is 7 times more effective versus typing. You remember it more. Maybe because it's more purposeful, mas mabagal, mas madami, and scientifically, mas madami kang ginagamit na brain cells connections. And this is why it becomes a bit more effective in terms of memory. And at the same time, it's more effective kasi when you communicate to yourself, you're trying to teach yourself something and you're telling yourself something. So you have 1x power or 7x power. So when you're writing it down, it's 7x power. So people who journal to this day realize that value. And parang because there's a value in it, it's not affected by the technology. So it's really about being able to communicate that value to the target customers. We're not trying to convert the whole world to journaling.
Mhm.
Me personally, I use my calendar, and Alan knows this, that wala akong meeting na walang sa calendar ko. So,
Mhm.
Outlook calendar, as in like my digital calendar. So it's in my planner in terms of the monthly view, but what's in my weekly planner notes are actually like my notes, my thoughts, the meetings that I have, ideas, as in yun yung nakasulat. So, there.
Thank you,
Ayun.
Tar. Any follow-up,
Yeah.
Aiza?
So,
Clear naman?
yeah, super clear. So actually ano din, isa din ako sa mga ano din, handwritten journals din talaga. So parang I tried online app. So hindi siya talaga swak sa akin. So good to know pala. Thank
Si,
you,
I,
Miss
si
Earl.
Aiza pa is an amazing writer. No, super galing
Nice.
sulat.
Ay, ikaw naman,
And
coach. Mm,
she recently
mm.
spoke
Thank
a couple
you.
of days ago sa Aliw
Ayan, sa
Theater.
third Mm.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alright.
Thank you,
Thank you,
coach.
Aiza. So we have si Chega next up. There we go. Ask you to unmute.
Hi po, Alan and Miss Dar. Pinakabahan ako. Kasi grabe, before my question talagang super nakarelate ako. Yung sabi niya kanina na pinagsabay niya lahat. Kasi that's what I'm doing right now. I'm a two agencies while I'm also an agency owner of my own, email marketing. Tapos yung sinabi niya kanina na nakatulog siya when her friends were taking her out. Ganun yung nangyari sa akin nung Sunday. Nagsimba ako and there was like a nagising lang siguro ako ng 5 minutes. Ilang beses ako nag-head back. I feel really guilty doing that kasi gusto kong gawin lahat. And ang ganda ng question na sinabi mo na, what do I want in life with all this hassle? So I will take note of that po. Thank you. But my question, yung question ko is medyo pang Miss Universe. Ano problems that you're encountering right now as a 50 million revenue business owner? Kasi diba, there's always problems like
Correct. Yeah.
so ano yun?
Well, what happened just during the pandemic, pre-pandemic 2019, we reported 50 plus million in terms of sales. 2020, ano kami, rara kasi 2019 was a good year. Our target for 2020 was around 90 million because we just moved into a new office. I have 350 square meters. I have 30 to 40 people in my team, and we were just so excited to just break the ceiling in terms of going up to the next level. But 2020 happened, right, with the pandemic. So what happened was nawala lahat. Kailangan kong yung 350 square meter office ko, we didn't get to stay there the whole of 2020 after the lockdown. Maybe the end of 2020 when we were packing. That's what happened. 2021, I had to decide, even if I invested millions of peso in finishing it, to let the space go. So from 350, it became 70 square meters. So daming problema during the pandemic. And what I would say talaga to a lot of people was it was really traumatizing. Like until now, parang there's really still the trauma and the hurt. And yung siguro reminder ko lang to everyone because I'm sure all of us had our different kinds of trauma to the pandemic. If the trauma, you cover it up, walang mangyayari. It won't heal. You just covered it up. Maybe you won't see that you have a sugat, but it's still there. And you might wonder, bakit hindi ko, parang walang full range of motion yung arms ko? It's because you haven't healed that part of you in the trauma. I'm not answering your question directly, but I'll answer it in a while. I'll share a big lesson I learned also this year. I shared with you yung lagapak ko, diba? Yung fall from grace, like I was on top of the world and I fell down. And this was a side question of Alan. What are my limiting beliefs? It wasn't my limiting beliefs then. But because I got hurt with this trauma, and remember what I told you? Did I tell you I cried about it? Did I tell you I slept it off? Diba? I told you the first thing I did the next day was to write down my goals. I didn't believe in bad days. So I buried the pain that I felt because I felt I was stronger than this. So, okay. And then, years later, successful, diba? I was able to reach 50 million. So, parang okay naman ako, right? But what happened? Throughout the last maybe 10 years of being in business, or at least half of the time that I was in business, I've always felt na bakit yung growth ko parang sobrang incremental lang. Na parang konting akyat, pero hindi ko yung leaps and bounds. Bakit hindi ko magawa? So parang, kasi hindi ako mayaman, wala akong kilala ng mga ibang tao na sobrang network to death, 'di ba, na good connections in PR, good circle. Baka kasi yun. So yun yung what's part of the limiting belief in my head. But what I realized this year was that the ceiling that I was saying that I wanted to hit or break just came from me. Alam mo bakit? Nanggaling siya sa I was so scared of the lagapak to happen again. Na to fall from that height and uncontrollable. So like what I'm doing, okay, sige, let's go up. Let's try this. Okay, kaya ko pa. O, akyat. O, kaya ko pa. So ako gumawa ng feeling ko because I was also scared of that lagapak. I have more to lose now than earlier in my life, right? But that was like that's what I'm saying na parang there's trauma, guys, in the pandemic. So, Jiga, your veiled questions is that sinasabi mong you're working so hard, you're doing multiple things all at the same time. There's a reason why you're doing that, right? You're hustling because we need the money and we have to accept that, right? That's part of our reality. 'Di ba? Kailangan natin ng pera eh. So, but what is the current mindset kaya kailangan tayo magpagod and burn ourselves out? Mauubos yung opportunities, kaya kailangan ko mag-hustle. Medyo out of fear, 'di ba? So, the out of fear, whenever you're driving on something that's so out of fear, the energy of your work is all fear-based. And it's super draining. It's super draining. And you'd think na parang mas mataas yung maano mo. Kasi, no eh, I can work 20 hours in a day, 4 hours lang yung tulog ko, okay lang. Right? But, yun nga, it's coming from fear. And when you're coming from fear, you will always, mauubusan ka ng energy. Kasi hindi ka excited. Iba yung trabaho pag excited ka. Para kang hindi napapagod. 'Di ba? So, how do you find that? Siguro is my question to you. While being responsible, because if you're supporting anyone, if you have a family, 'di ba? May ano eh part siya ng reality eh. 'Di ba? Na madaming or ako, parang after college, I also had to support my parents. People think na parang yun nga, Chinese, come from a rich family, okay na yan. But I had to support my parents also. So hindi naman super like I didn't have to pay for all my siblings ano, but I had to support them in different ways financially. So ayun. And I know it's not a direct answer to your question. Pero feeling ko yung most question mo kung paano mo babalansehin yung mga kailangan mong gawin. And dahil the 50 million question na sinasabi mo, ano mga problema ng bigger company or it's roughly the same thing. It's just that it's on the scale. Now, how do you take the next level? How do you break the next ceiling? How do you step up to the next step, right? It's always that.
hindi ko in-expect na maiyak ako pala dito. Yeah, yung sinabi mo na ano ba yung reason na nag-hustle? Kasi ganun din, lumagapak din ako last year. Like, zero na yun. As in, zero talaga, wala. And then, starting ng taon, I started to pick up. And yung sinabi mo na I don't want to let go of opportunities kasi sayang. Yung nangyari. Like, wala akong hinihian opportunities until sa nag-grow nga ako. Pero yun nga, parang, yes, I get excited, but yung energy mo, kahit gano'n ka pa excited, wala. Pag hindi na kaya ng katawan mo, burn out talaga. And
Oo.
I'm going through it right now.
Yes, and if you're going through that right now, if you keep on moving forward in that state, do you think there's still a Jega to talk about in January or February? How long can you last at this current state? 'Di ba? So, if we try to ground it na parang, oo, right now, there's a lot of fear. And yes, there's a lot of opportunity and you want to take advantage of it. But yun yung ano price to pay ng fear eh. It makes you work really hard because you're scared eh. But the price to pay is, energy yung kapalit niya. Meaning, if you probably work out of love or out of like positive energy, maybe you'll just use 10% of your life force. But if it's out of fear, the adrenaline rush, it's probably like 20, like double the amount, right? So if you're trying to survive longer in this pandemic and maximize whatever opportunities, medyo counter yung nagagawa mo. Mas inuubos mo yung sarili mo, kumbaga. Right now. So it's really, and there's no shortcut in figuring out the answer here, guys. I can't tell you, mag-meditate kayo, mag-journal kayo. Well, the most number one thing is kailangan nyo matulog. Parang biological need, you have to sleep and you have to eat properly. So those basic needs you have to give to yourself. So biological, you have to give it talaga to yourself. Otherwise, just think it will be worse or your greatest fear will happen if you don't take care of yourself. So you need to be able to shift that fear into like, I'm okay, I'm better right now. Na parang, okay, natatakot talaga ako sa nangyari sa akin last year. But look at your finances. Count the money. Count the safety. How many months are you safe? Okay, sige, may extra ako na 1 month, may extra ako na 2 months. Okay, I'll give myself permission to rest a bit, maybe 1 week, 2 days, anong kaya.
Right.
Yun.
Yeah. By your own time, no, Dar. Like sometimes tayong last na we don't look at buying our own time. Like we just sell it to others. Baka there are time na tayo naman dapat bumili ng sarili nating oras. Thank you, Jega. Is there anything else you want to ask, Jega? We'd have.
Pero
Good.
wala na. Kasi super
Thank you.
thankful kasi someone na nandun na dumaan din siya sa dinadaanan ko. So very grateful.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the question. We have si Richelle, then meron tayong phone in sa chat sa KBN later on. So Richelle, I'll ask si Richelle to unmute. Then after the end, we'll have one more question we have time for one more question to respect Dar's time as well. So Richelle, hello. Ask you to unmute.
Hello po, Sir Alan. Hello po, Ma'am Darlene. So, actually, nagpapasalamat ako kay Sir Alan kasi nabigyan ako ng chance to be in this call. So, based on na-share ko nga po, dun sa email na sinend ko po sa inyo, kasi I fear that I may be losing the creativeness because currently I'm a full-time nanay din, full-time employee. I have 5 kids. And then I feel like it's already draining, but I still want to, syempre, push myself kasi nga sabi ko, puro hustle na lang para lang mag-earn. Pero parang hindi ko na nagagawa yung gusto ko, like more on the creative side. So for my question, kasi kanina na stuck yung sinabi ni Miss Darlene sa akin na, I mean, parang sa kanya sinabi na, like, I feel like I wouldn't have enough time since parang lahat na lang sa family, wala na sarili. And then, yun nga po. So ang question ko lang po, how do you sustain your creativeness? Lahat po ba nung nasa planner nyo, is it all you? Or do you distribute it to others to work on? So, yun po.
I definitely have a team. My planner is 17 years old. but I would still say a lot of the creativity comes from me. So where do you get it? Definitely yung sinabi ko kanina, talking to customers, talking to your team. That's like the most basic, diba, on a business standpoint. But creativity doesn't always come from outside. It comes from inside of you. So what do I mean by this? It's really you being joyful in life. I don't think anyone can be truly creative if they're not unhappy.
Mhm.
That's why I was saying na, yun nga, kay Jiga, you need to rest. Kasi it will come to a point in time na wala ka ng baon. Kung wala kang baon, eh yung only baon mo yung sarili mo eh. So pag maubusan ka ng sarili mo, maubusan ka ng sarili mong baon, mawawalan ka ng energy, mawawalan ka ng joy. Wala ka na. Wala ka ng battery. You cannot function. It will be so hard to function. Right? So how do you sustain your energy? How do you sustain your creativity? How do you sustain whatever ideas? Find your joy. Ang cliche. But it's really like right now, I'll tell you what's making me happy. And I started this because I also went into a leadership program just recently. And I feel like I'm a new person also because I was really feeling highly depressed early this year. Up to middle of this year. And parang what got me out of the rut was really going through a different program that parang I was resisting. And then I realized talaga na, oh, I wasn't really designing the life that I want for myself. Even if I talked about it in my Facebook lives, in when I'm being interviewed and whatever. But I wasn't applying it 100% in my life. And na-realize ko, bakit ko siya hindi ma-apply? Because I was just so tired. I was so exhausted. During the pandemic, I was fighting to survive. You think a 50 million company that had went down last yung 2020 was 40M. Tapos last year, we were on a net loss. And as I told you, I also have a family, have two young kids. Okay. I don't have a safety net. My husband works with me because yung nagka-heart attack siya ng 2019, I said, work with me na dahil the business was growing. Then the pandemic happened. So, technically, dalawa kaming income nakatali sa company namin Viviamo. Imagine my anxiety. Imagine the stress of having parang figuring out how to sustain my employees. Kasi nawalan yung families nila ng trabaho. During the first year, yung 2020, majority, if not all my employees, they were the only ones who had a job in their families. So, fighting to make sure I can give them their salaries. Fighting for my own family. That I had money for tuition, diba? And for our mortgage, we don't, parang yung house namin kasi naka-loan eh. So, we still pay something every month. But parang rent to own siya. But ganun, diba? The anxiety, it was really bad for the pandemic. And yet, diba, what do you see in Facebook? I still show up every Wednesday doing my FB lives because I wanted to support the community, the Bellas. But I was also going through my own stuff. And it's not that I wasn't authentic. Kasi if you listen, I would talk about my anxiety and frustration also. We had the partnership with My Nation, diba? Pasok lahat yon. But it's just that there are some things you don't also always share with everyone. And yun yung nangyari. That there's really that trauma. And whatever trauma, pagod, it makes you feel like you don't deserve whatever joy you want. Or it makes you feel like, I can't afford to be happy right now because daming problema. I can't afford to be happy right now because kailangan mag-alaga ng bata, kailangan ko magawin to, kailangan ko ganun to. But the moment you keep on telling yourself that, the moment you let go of trying to find something joyful in your life, that's when you drain yourself of all, I don't know, possible re-energizing energy. So how do you find your joy? Is the next question. Um, that's the challenging part is you have to realize number one is it's a choice. Okay? That's the hardest shift. Because you feel like you're helpless eh, di ba? Tapos biglang sasabihin ni Dar, choice mo, mental. Kailangan ko isipin lang, kailangan ko isipin, ganun mo kadali. Of course, it's not that easy eh. But you have to acknowledge that you have a choice to be joyful. So sa akin, may nagbago ba sa circumstances ko aside from going through the program? To be honest, hindi. Hirap pa din kami. I'm still, like, we're employing the help of Alan, figuring out how we're gonna survive this year so that we can live another year for next year for Viviamo. But at the same time, parang if you meet me now, I feel like I'm more happier right now versus like a couple of months ago. And the reason is that parang I just realized na parang no, even if madaming problema, even if the company is not sustainable, I'm choosing to be happy right now. Not na hindi ako nagagalit or na-frustrate or naiiyak. Nafe-feel ko pa din yon. But I just allow myself also to be happy amidst all the problems. Okay. So ang ano 'di ba, parang ang ironic, ang hirap ng pinapagawa ko. So little things, really deliberately spending alone time with my kids because they make me happy. So just feeling, receiving the hugs of with them, having meaningful conversations with my kids. Gets na parang mag-uusap lang kami about parang minsan yung tinatanong ako ng anak ko, 4-year-old, Mommy, did you always want to be a mommy? As in, mga ganyan. And then, di ba, parang nakakatuwa lang eh, di ba? Kasi wala silang, parang they don't understand, right? About parang the weight that we carry as moms or as parents. And then, my husband and I, parang we started dancing again because we met in salsa. So for the longest time, we haven't danced. Even like with pre-pandemic because we had kids, kailangan mag-alaga, whatever, blah, 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 all of these things. It gave me a lot of joy, just dancing, just remembering what it was like before everything. We'd have honest conversations na, kasi before, I didn't want to have kids. To be honest, like parang when we got married, our agreement was no kids. Because I was like sort of married with my career. But parang I wouldn't exchange naman what happened to us kasi I felt it was like such a blessing. But just having that conversation, that difficult conversation na, alam mo, na-miss ko yung could be life natin. Na maybe things won't be as heavy if we didn't have as many kids. 'Di ba? Or kung hindi nag-ano. Having that conversation, parang makes you feel lang may kasama ka. 'Di ba? Pero don't stay there. Kaya always go back to finding what will make you happy. And again, the happiness doesn't have to be super big. It's not about buying some branded bag or being able to travel here or there. It's really just finding like the little joys in your life that you have. Hindi naman nagbago buhay ko from this year to middle of this year eh. I just gave myself permission to be happy. Gets? So parang, and with that, parang okay, sige, yeah, daming problema, but hindi pa kami safe, as I told you guys. Serious yun, honest, diba? Alam yun ni Alan. Sabi ko, nag-SOS ako. Guys, SOS, SOS, as in like really SOS with our business. But, I don't know, it just feels like parang things will be okay. And I guess that's a gift I have for myself right now. So, and I feel because I'm in that space of gratitude, that space of finding my joy deliberately. Sinasadya siya, guys. Hindi siya ibig sabihin pagising mo sa umaga, joyful ka na. Sinasadya siya. Parang mas magaan. Mas magaan or mas nakakakuha ko ng energy to move forward day in, day out. Or to figure out, okay, sige, ito yung problema. Okay, ano yung pwede ko pang gawin? Parang hindi siya nalulumok sa pagod. So, yun. So, I hope, Rochelle, it's a long answer. But
Are we
I
good,
hope that
Rochelle?
helped you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I guess we have time for one last one from Lian. So Lian is asking, no, phone in question, eh. Have you ever been swayed to pursue a different path that isn't aligned to your dream? If so, what advice can you give to someone so she can remain steadfast to claiming her ultimate goal?
Naghahalo yung mga definitions ng goals and dreams and visions. To be honest, right now, I'm in this path of trying to figure out my vivid vision for the life that I want. Because as I shared with you earlier, parang early this year, parang I really just felt that parang I wasn't living the life that I wanted and I was miserable in it. In fact, I wanted to run away. Gets? Because sobrang pagod eh, 'di ba? And they keep on saying, 'di ba, you have to design a life that you don't want to take a break from. So, in terms of the goals, I'm thinking what you're saying is nagiging distraction yung goals because maybe, let's say, you need money, but that's not your dream, right? Tama ba? Na this is, I want to get, parang I need to be financially secure, but my bigger dream is this. So am I getting distracted, right? Um, I would answer it in a, I don't know. I hope I'll be able to answer it properly. I think the number one thing that we always need to know, and which I learned also with my life experiences, is really to figure out what do you really want. If money isn't an issue. So last year, I was also considering closing the company because hirap ako. And I told you, nag-net loss kami. Diba? And at the same time, aside from the net loss, syempre, sino magbabayad nun? Ako. Right? Hindi naman yung employees ko eh. I have to take it on, right? And then I'm sacrificing then the security of my kids, the future. Net loss eh. Totoong net loss. First time in such a long time. Halos break even lang 2020. So now we're just reeling from the loss. So, um, you need to know what you want, even if it's not practical. What made me continue VDJ Viviamo again this year is because I realized if money wasn't an issue, gagawin ko pa din siya. So you just ask yourself about what you want. If money wasn't the issue, if you allowed yourself to desire anything and everything in the whole world, what kind of life would that be? And then you write it down. Whether you type it out or you write it down on paper, doesn't matter to me, but just write it all down. And when you write it all down, if you want to make a vision board out of it, okay lang, go. Just write it all down. Now, after you figure out na ito talaga yung life that I want and this is the feelings that I want to be able to have, the experiences that I want to have. So, hindi siya yung parang, gusto ko may bahay, gusto ko may ganito. Hindi siya ganon na. It's really, try to imagine the life that you want. Gets? Kasi baka makita ka dyan, 10 kotse, ganyan, gets? Hindi ganon. Ano yun? Parang really, try to imagine na parang pag na-experience mo yung life na yun, parang sabi ko, oh, this is a wonderful life. I'm so blessed and I'm so grateful. So, what is that life for you? And obviously, iba-iba rin yung sagot. Then, you look at the goals that you have. There's a have to goals, maybe. Or in-invento ko lang yun right now. Like goals na parang, okay, I need to do this because I need to put food on the table. Right? Because maybe the goals, and yung interpretation ko sa question, I hope I have it right, is that kaya siya distraction to that dream is because I have to do some work that is not related to what my biggest vision of myself because that has money in it. Yun lang naman yung reason bakit tayo gumagawa ng mga bagay, diba? Dahil sa pera, in a way. So, you have to accept that. But you don't put negative energy on it. Meaning, kaya nagiging mabigat yon yung goal na yon. Shit, ayoko talaga to gawin eh. Araw-araw, pinipilit ko lang talaga bumangon. Pero kailangan ko lang siya gawin to put food on the table. That's one energy. The second energy, oh my God, I'm so grateful that I have this job because of this job, I'm still able to do my other passions na hindi pa kumikita ng pera. Magkaiba yon na energy. And that
That's-
will dictate how you can survive in the practical and in the dreaming side of things, diba?
Beautiful. Yeah. Diyan, okay lang ba if I share a little bit more context sa pag-usapan natin? So, Dian and I we met again dun sa event, no? She's doing well with her VA services, and she also has a passion project. Apparel siya, di ba, Dian? Uh, can I ask you to, yeah, can I ask you to, kahit quickly lang, even if it's an art print. Yan. Go ahead, Dian. Ay, we can't hear you. Ayan. Ay, parang wala yung,
Walang
you can't seem
sound
to hear you.
data.
Yeah. Pero so she has this project na sa art print, no? And there are the speakers who have reached, she's doing well, but meron pang mga like reaching like 7 figures, 8 figures, and she was at the bind, no? Okay na ako dito sa ina-earn ko. I'm happy with the passion project. But is there something more? Should I recalibrate, no, with where I'm at? And maybe should I pursue higher? Baka hindi tama na settled na ako dito sa earning ko per month. Is that accurate, Lian? Like, is there something else you want to pursue? Na parang should you pursue like higher income, no, at the expense of perhaps putting on pause your passion project? Medyo naghang yata si Lian.
So parang there's two opportunities. One is do the VA services and the other one is the passion project wherein there's money. Also, right? The shirt, the art prints, tama.
Yeah, I think the art print, yeah, and she's here again.
Oo.
Naghang you. I'll add her again. Yeah. I think the art print perhaps
Oo.
is not like a big income
Big
generator,
thing. But it's a
right?
passion project.
Yeah.
Sa akin kasi parang it's really yun nga eh. Um, if money wasn't an issue, what is it that you want to be doing? So if like, let's say, passion project, this is what I really want to be doing. I really just want to make art prints for the rest of my life. And I wish it will earn me X 7 figures every month. Diba? Then that for me is the bigger goal or bigger desire. But the right now is okay, I'm not there yet. Maybe I'm just earning 4 figures or 5 figures. Tapos yung VA ko, it's 7 figures. So, okay. So, how do I balance it so that I do the VA, I get support myself, I can support whoever I need to support, my family. But how do I increase it? So, given na limited research yung body natin, medyo kailangan mo lang siya i-trial and error. There's no shortcut. Like, bawas ng konti sa VA, dagdag dito, or dagdag ng konti sa art prints, give it a bit more time, or figuring out what is the most strategic way of improving this business. Okay. But I will call out one belief that I'm also trying to manage. The belief that you can't earn a lot of money from your passion project. So, I have this friend na nilolook up to ko. So, the company is Tuason Racing. So, passion project, racing, pang mayaman. Sino ba nag-race sa Pilipinas? 'Di ba? Mayaman, kotse, 'di ba? And so on. Tapos, but passion niya lang siya talaga. Like, he's a race car driver. So, ina-accept niya, I think it was like maybe 10 years ago, na maximum ceiling lang nito, dahil passion project, siguro roughly 20 million lang to. Kasi kahit anong gawin niya, parang around that range eh. So, exactly where I am right now. Like, I'm in 30 to 50. Like, parang, will I break out of this, um, category? So, but he went through like, he got some mentors were just like having him explore different ideas, try this, try that. You know, in 1 year, the 20 million tripled to 60 million, 50 to 60 million. In his wildest dreams, he could not have imagined that he could have done that. But he was able to do that because he was in a constant group of maybe ganito, like-minded people. He listened to people. He studied, he learned, he invested in himself. And then, yun lang, I want to grow the company, I want to grow the company. Nagawa niya. It was a passion project because he came, parang yung idea that made him like soar, I think, was organizing races to the point that there was apparently no race organizer supplier here in the Philippines. It was very consistent with his passion. He loved racing. So the thing is, with everything that we're doing, there's really a way that we're looking at things, diba? Now, that allowed us to be successful. Meaning, what allowed me to be successful from 0 to 50M or whatever I am na right now, kasi bumaba nga siya. That's not the mindset that I need to be able to break the ceiling to reach the next level. That's why I need to talk about it with friends. I need to be open with ideas. I need to study, invest in myself. I need to implement these ideas. And again, it's not gonna be easy until I find that crazy pang doble ng negosyo idea. But the thing is, if you lock yourself down na no, belief ko, passion project siguro hanggang dito na lang yun. Right? Then you won't be able to find that idea kasi you're not even open to the possibility that there's something that can bring it forward or break that So it's a risk, yes, and that's why I'm telling you guys, figure out find a way to make it work, multiple sources of income. It's just being practical. I'm very practical. And I know the responsibility of supporting families, 'di ba? Ayun.
Yeah.
I hope that answered the
Ganda.
question.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I mean, I think I chose the perfect person to be the first one in this series because one of the real reason that gusto kong gawin to is for you to take a look into like the mindset, the behavior of people who've been there and done that. Diba? And hindi lang siya, like our space is full of people na ang una sinasabi, 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure, like entrepreneurs. But parang there's more to that. There's more to the number. The number shouldn't always be the hook, right? I think like it's the person behind it, the morals, the characters, the challenges. As you can see, mga suggestion, mga sinasabi ni Dar are from experience, and she's not sugarcoating anything, right? And she's very open and honest with what she's going through, and that's an angle that I want to show you guys. No, so with that said, I have two things before we end. One is favor ko sa inyo. Could all of you guys unmute and let's give Dar a big round of applause. Yan. Yan. You guys could all unmute. Yan. Ayaw ba? Yeah,
Baka
you can.
mahirap. Okay
Can you
na.
try? Ayaw ba? Alright. Let me... Sige,
Okay na.
clap nyo na lang dito
Thank
sa
you.
chat. Yeah, stable pa rin.
Thank you.
Alright. Hindi siya gumana ngayon. Ayan, sa camera na lang. Sa camera. Alright. All right, all
Thank
right.
you, thank you.
Niloko ko ni Zuma. Ayan. Again, take two, take two, take two. Take two. Can you unmute yourselves?
Yun.
Yan. Yan.
Thank
Thank you
you,
po,
thank
Miss
you.
Dar.
Yan.
Thank you,
Yan.
Miss
Thank
Dar.
you.
Let's do that in gallery.
Oo.
Yan.
I'll send the promo na lang, Alan, after.
Yeah, sure,
Medyo,
sure.
ano din kami, nahihirapan yung team lang right now.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So yun, thank you very much, Dar. And yeah, please do, if you enjoyed this conversation, do check out yung PDJ na Facebook page, your Facebook group. Dar does this every Wednesday. If nabitin kayo, di kayo mauubusan doon.
Ano na
And-
lang, first Wednesday and last Wednesday of the month.
There you
So
go.
hindi na
First
eh,
and
parang
last
may
one.
break, may nag-break ako
May
this
break.
year.
She's taking her own advice. No, so with
Yes.
that said, also I highly suggest like checking out their planners. I'm a fan, like third year. I bought 2023 na. I'm using this. Yan, may mga notes sa loob. I suggest checking them out. Actually, si Dar is the one I trust. Dun sa Inbox Society, her team were the ones who did the planner. And I'm sure yung mga nakakuha dito, if you can type in the comment kung nagustuhan nyo siya. Because for me, like, it's like, may nag-comment si Ryan ba? Si Keen, no? Parang world-class talaga yung mga planners sila, no? So, and lastly, siguro before we end, like, si Dar is probably my favorite client in the sense that I wrote for her as her ghostwriter for like, medyo matagal din, like half a year to 8 months. So,
Yeah.
so it was my first time writing extensively as a woman, but I think marami kaming alignment in mindset ni Dar. So, sa mga examples lang ng women's life ako nag-search talaga sa Reddit, no, ng mga, paano ba mag-enjoy yung babae? So, but, yeah, and siguro last thing is there's a lot of smart people here, Dar. Like if you guys have suggestions to help out Dar in strategy, and if you have clients in the space and may nag-work na strategy, course it through me. I'll connect you or else pass it over to Dar. So let's, like let's use our talent, to help each other out. No, so thank you very much. Let's picture muna tayo, guys. Let's take a photo. Yung mga nagtatago, this is the time to turn on your cameras.
Magpakita.
Pakita muna. Yan. Special mention dito, we have on the call si Miss Lizette. Yan. Yeah, picture tayo. Then
I'm not
give a
feeling
special
well, si
shout
Miss
out.
Lizette.
No. So
It's
sorry to hear
okay.
that. Sige, let's take a
I will get
photo.
well
Yan.
soon.
Yan. 1, 2, 3, smile. Yan. Ay, one more. Sorry, meron akong device dito na. All right. One more. Smile, guys. 1, 2, 3. Yan. So, if any of you guys are part of like my Sunday reflections, I shared the story of Miss Lizette a couple of weeks back. So she was the one who started acting, no? Nung natin niya magsi-senior na siya. So she's with us right now. So yeah, palakpakan niyo rin siya kung naalala niyo yung story niya. So yeah, thank you. Anything else, Dar? That any final words before we conclude?
Siguro ano na lang, parang I think the most important, parang I really like the phrase, right? The clarity is power. So I think it's really about being clear with what you want. But before you can even be clear with what you want, you have to give yourself permission to want what you want. Kasi I think that's the bigger problem that we usually have. Na parang what's holding us back is really we feel we don't deserve it. I think that was one of the email entries na shinare sa akin ni Alan, diba? May worthiness issue. So, medyo kailangan natin i-overcome so that we reach to a level na we tell ourselves truly what we want, and then it becomes a bit clear. And that's
Beautiful.
where you get your power.
Super, thank you, Dar. And I think the community really appreciates it. And yeah, support Dar, support her products, top notch. And as you can see, the person behind it, diba, puts passion and love basically in everything that she does. And that was in full display today. So with that said, Have a great rest of the day, guys. We'll see you soon. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.